Well, greetings, everyone. I am thrilled and honored to once again be in conversation with Julia Balaz, who is an extraordinary galactic astrologer with a background in quantum healing hypnosis technique, past life regression. She has an online website, which I'll list below, galacticastrology.com, where she has courses and a lot of information about her pioneering work in galactic astrology and fixed stars and our interactions with them. And today, I'm very excited. We're going to be talking about the Atlantis asteroid and what that means in our charts and what that means in terms of the energies of this time. So thank you for doing this with me today, Julia.
Thank you, Heather. It's always so wonderful to connect with you, and I'm really excited about how this conversation will go. It was kind of random how we selected the topic, kind of last minute, and once we started looking into it, it makes total sense why it came up at this time. So I can't wait to share more.
So you have some slides to introduce us to this asteroid and its placement. So why don't we start there?
Yeah, let's do that. First of all, for any of the viewers, if they would like to find out where this asteroid is placed in their natal chart, if you go to the website astro.com and select free horoscopes where you can get your own natal chart wheel, there is a feature called extended chart selection. And there you can click on additional objects where you can type number 1198. That's the number for the asteroid Atlantis. When you type that number in and click view the chart, you will see where it is positioned in your astrology. So let's go to the astronomical facts on the asteroid Atlantis. It was discovered in 1931. And actually, when I looked at the chart of the date of discovery, 7th of September, the asteroid Atlantis was at 27 degrees of Pisces. Currently, today, as we speak, it's in Leo sign. The orbit of this asteroid around the sun, full circle, it's about 3.3 years, so 1,322 days. So it will stay in a sign for about 3.5 months. It has kind of irregular orbit. It goes into retrograde motions, then goes forward at different speeds. So a little unpredictable. It moves through the zodiac sign fairly quickly. It's not like the outer planet, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, where it takes many, many, many years. So the energy is quite dynamic. And just today, as we speak, the asteroid is opposing the sun and it is trining the North Node. It just seems like collectively, because it's opposing the sun, the attention of the Atlantean lost civilization memories seems to be coming up. When I connected with my community of quantum soul guidance practitioner online course that I have, we have a private Facebook group. And this week I shared a post saying that I'll be doing this presentation. I was just curious if the asteroid is in our community's natal charts, and do they recall any of their memories from Atlantis? Because it seems truly that if you have Atlantis in your natal chart, whether it's conjunction or in aspect to any of the planets or the points like the ascendant, midheaven, and so on, there typically are memories from the Atlantean lost civilization. And this civilization was spanning over thousands of years. There could be memories of its rise, its beginnings, or somewhere in the middle, or towards the fall of Atlantis. And the aspects to the Atlantis asteroid can reveal that, or the planet's placements in connection to this asteroid can reveal what type of experience the person had in Atlantis, if that's the case. And of course, there are many people who don't have any direct connection to their natal planets or the points. And in that case, they feel very indifferent about the topic of the lost civilization of Atlantis. In fact, they may think it's just a made-up story. They don't connect to it. It just doesn't even come to the surface of conversations in their life experience. unlike for those that do have a connection, it's coming up through many different ways throughout their life. So another meaning that seems to be connected to the asteroid, if it's prominent in people's charts, is the energy healing ability. Because the Atlantean civilization is known for having access to our innate ability to heal oneself or others, or working with crystals, working with the mysteries of water. There's so much wisdom hidden in the water. And I believe you, Heather, have been talking about this in many of your presentations. So it can be that. Another meaning that is associated with Asteroid Atlantis is potential to a deception or deceptive information, because towards the end of the civilization, there has been a fall of consciousness where there were groups of people in charge that fell for greedy motivations, very much service to self, polarized, and having the top-down structure, not considering how their actions will impact the collective, the whole, the planet. And there may have been, as I said, deceiving communication and motives. So it's just interesting how now, which you, Heather, I hope you will talk about that in this presentation, how we are facing the polar opposite energetics of the 12,000 year long cycle, whereas before we had the lunar nodes in Leo, and now in Aquarius, we are kind of seeing the echo of what once was, and how will we relive the echo of the experiences, and what choices will we make this time around. So all this seems to be coming up, and as I connected with the community, even without people knowing about the current transits, how it's kind of activated this frequency, these memories through the sun opposing and the nodes trining, people have experienced in the last few days, couple of weeks, just thinking about the Atlantis civilization, what their experiences were like, or in particular in our community where people are offering their service to delineate charts in connection to stars and ancient lives memories. The Atlantean stories are coming up. So it seems that many people are going to be triggered now to review their experience from this lost civilization in order to face what once was, accept who they were, what they were doing, or what happened to them, bring peace into these memories, into these records, and bring the wisdom as the hidden gem in those experiences into the current life experience, and align to higher frequencies so that we can move through that evolutionary spiral higher and higher towards greater harmony, and certainly hopefully towards a more positive collective timeline than being destroyed by our own actions as a whole civilization. I'll stop sharing just for a moment. Would you like to share a little about the precessional cycles in relation to this?
Absolutely. So it is fascinating what you're saying, Julia, because we are at that critical juncture in the 24,000 year precessional cycle, where we're at the ending of one precessional cycle, the beginning of a new one, and a time where, as we're moving into the age of Aquarius, we are facing the possibility of an evolutionary leap into fifth dimensional consciousness, into higher consciousness. And we are remembering so much of the ancient wisdom from that time, 12,000 years ago and earlier, the time of Atlantis that was working with such a high level of consciousness. And we're reconnecting with the understanding of, as you said, ways of energy healing. And I think it's fascinating that in Atlantis, there was that understanding of the crystal grid, and we're learning so much more now about the Earth's energy lines and how we can work with those energies. But it's such a critical time in the precessional cycle where we can either heal and move into higher consciousness, or reenact the trauma of what happened 12,000 years ago, where we stay out of balance, stay in separation consciousness, or that destructive power over model, in a way then that we will go through a time where the earth will reset, and we as humanity will have to work through another major cataclysmic crisis on the planet. That every 12,000 years in the precessional cycle, we experience this time of shift in human consciousness and earth changes. So how we work this time with our own choices and our own consciousness will determine which trajectory, which timeline we're on as we face this time in the precessional cycle. So as you're saying, I think so many people may have incarnated now who had experiences in Atlantis and are trying to support us in being on that more healing, conscious trajectory into higher consciousness at this time.
I wholeheartedly believe that. And I wonder how the contrast between Leo and Aquarius may be playing out now as well. It seems that we face the shadow side of Leo in Atlantis at the fall of Atlantis. And what would it be like if we face the shadow side of Aquarius? And perhaps with the awareness that we have, that so many people collectively are holding of the shadow side and light side of every zodiac sign, of every planet. I love how much guidance astrology can offer in terms of helping us understand how we have an opportunity to go through the shadow sides of each zodiac sign and the planet, and then ascend towards the higher expression that feels much more peaceful and harmonious, wise and loving and kind. So perhaps with that growing understanding that we are sharing with each other, we may have enough awareness of how not to experience collectively the shadow side of Aquarius, which is kind of right out there, looking at us from every direction, right? With the technology that is on a rise, not very equally to our spiritual growth amongst the collective. Yet, I would say it may appear so through the mass media because it is not communicated enough how much is being done collectively without it being shouted out to the world. I believe actually that if the reality was broadcasted by mass media of how much inner work we are doing as a collective, we would be celebrating already. We would be so hopeful. And this is my Jupiter in Sagittarius talking. I'm just such an optimist, but I really, wherever I look, I see large groups of people taking personal responsibility for their emotions, for their working, for their ancestral conditioning, and really aligning with something that is more harmonious and loving and kind. So what do you think about that?
Well, that's so beautifully put, Julia. And I do see in my own experience so many that are on this accelerated path of healing and awakening. And you're right, in the media, we hear more of the shadow aspects of what's going on the planet. And it can keep us locked into fear or a lower level of frequency or consciousness that would then pull us in that more negative trajectory. But I do believe that we have so many people that are awakening that can be supporting the shift in the collective consciousness. But circling back to what you were saying a minute ago, I think that's really an important insight in terms of, as we're moving into the Aquarian age, how do we integrate the energies of Aquarius and Leo to hold the unity of those opposite signs instead of getting caught in polarization or the shadow aspects of them? Because I think when we access the best of them, it is moving into that Aquarian understanding of collaboration, community, co-creation together, but also integrating our individual unique creative gifts and creative expression, Leo. and living from the heart, Leo. So then we're actually each bringing our gifts into service for the whole and building this new earth together.
Absolutely. Yeah, I heard one or two people say, oh, Leos are very eccentric and self-centered and, me, myself, and I. But in my experience from early on, the Leos that I remember are very generous, loyal, very playful, just beautiful, sunshine-like people. So the brightness of Leo can be really beautiful and such a gift to be around. So, and it is something, it's certainly a trend that I am noticing with many people, at least in my community and many other communities that I follow, where people are generously giving of their time and energy and shared wisdom and wanting to offer help. And that then the Aquarian frequency of collaborating and, the inclusive attitude, where we no longer have the need to fight for who's right perspective, but rather how can we embrace each other's differences to do something together that can benefit all. So yeah, these are the brighter timelines and potentials that we have access to now.
Well, and as you're saying, every sign has its gifts and its shadow side. Every sign has the way in which it can manifest at a higher level of consciousness versus a lower level of consciousness. And I do think in that time of Atlantis, there was more of that separation and increasing sense of separate self that can be the shadow side of Leo. But when you integrate the gifts of Leo, it is about living from the heart and being a vehicle for manifesting that light and energy of the sun. And I think we have to be careful as we're moving into the age of Aquarius with not getting caught in the shadow side of Aquarius, which can be the misuse of technology. As we're getting more and more into artificial intelligence and more advanced technologies of different forms, we can either use those to support us in healing and coming back into balance with each other and with the earth, or for control. And as you were saying, deception and manipulation. So I think that's a critical issue facing us right now.
Absolutely. And another one that comes in is detachment. Aquarius can be like that, very detached and kind of isolated, minding their own business. But if we look at what we have collectively experienced in the last few years, we almost lived it out already, that isolation and detachment and being glued to our devices. I perhaps the experience that was granted to us allowed us to live it out already quite intensely. So we don't have to do much of that anymore, because people realize fairly quick that it doesn't feel healthy, doesn't feel happy. Let's connect in any way we can. So hopefully, here comes Jupiter in Sagittarius.
Hang on to that Jupiter and Sagittarius. I think that's great. Seeing and energizing the positive trajectory we can be on.
Very much.
What do you make of the fact, Julia, that this asteroid crosses orbit with Mars and has this reddish color like Mars? Do you feel like there's some dance between this asteroid and Mars and how we integrate our own Mars energy and
as I looked at that, the word bold comes to mind, and the frequency of that, just being bold in terms of what needs to be done, what needs to be faced, what needs to be said in order to follow the path that we are destined to walk, no matter what opposing energy comes in, no matter how much fighting or war can be presented through fiery frequency of Mars. We'll just cross it, experience it very quickly, but move on on the trajectory that is meant for us. That's the best way I can translate that metaphoric kind of outer space manifestation. What do you think? Does that
that makes so much sense. That's beautiful, because it does feel to me like it is really supporting us in looking at how we channel our energy and our own personal will, and is it in alignment with higher consciousness or not. And that Atlantis as an asteroid is showing us the gifts of being in that higher consciousness and the shadow aspect of misusing that energy and that personal will or way in which we channel our energy.
Yeah, I would almost tend to be inclined to appreciate the asteroid Atlantis really in its purest form for the wisdom of the water, the wisdom of the crystal, wisdom of the universe in it. But if we need to, or if we want to work with it, grasp it and work with it, we also first need to learn how to handle opposing forces, how to handle deception, how to handle everything that is difficult and challenging. And if we can do that fairly swiftly, understanding that it's just something that's passing and there is always an opportunity for us to grow stronger in our ability to carry the wisdom and use it, then yeah, that's how we can then leverage the blessings of this asteroid.
That's beautifully said. And I love your weaving it in with the consciousness of water and how that's coming so much more into our awareness now, especially with Veda Austin's work, and how as we can reconnect with the sacredness of the waters of the earth and the waters in the sky, it helps us to not get caught in that polarization. It helps us to come back into right harmony, right relationship with the sacredness of all of life.
Such an important work that she's doing. I was looking for her natal chart, but it's not out there. I would love to see her astrology, Veda Austin's, one day.
I suspect that this asteroid is very strongly placed in her chart.
Yeah. So speaking of which, will we have a look at some natal charts placements of asteroids and what that can mean? So I'll share my screen again. And so there's few people that I looked at. Well, first, really curious about Matias de Stefano's astrology. So for anyone who doesn't know, I hope everyone does at this point, Matias de Stefano is extraordinary young gentleman in his mid-30s who is known as the Rememberer. He remembers his previous incarnations, and in particular, the one that is strongest for him is the one at the end of Atlantis, leading into ancient Egypt. And part of his mission or his work, there is a lot of beautiful wisdom that he shared with the world in relation to what he remembers he was taught in Atlantis. So I was very curious to see where Atlantis is in his natal chart. So it is on his 9th house natally, 3 degrees off his MC. So it's the teachings of Atlantean elders that are coming through Matias. So naturally, 9th house of higher wisdom and higher philosophy and being a teacher embodiment, and close to his midheaven, his collective mission. It's not anchored by any of the planets, but I find that Atlantis being on midheaven is actually quite prominent. And when I talk to the community within the Quantum Soul Guidance Practitioners private group, those that have Atlantis on MC, even regardless of the planet, they do have recalls of Atlantean lifetimes. So that was really interesting, first of all. Matias was inspired to educate the collective that paid attention to what he has to say about the importance of the inner work, how we can align our energies, how we can understand the elements inside our being, the elements in our astrology, the elements in nature, how the microcosm and macrocosm are all interlinked, and what it means in our everyday life experience. But also he believes we are carrying the consciousness of the earth, and what earth is going through, we are going through. And it's not, well, yes, it's us affecting the earth, but really the earth cycles are the main key players that then cause us collectively go through certain experiences as well. And he is helping us to become aware of these greater cycles that go way back to Atlantis. When we talk about the precession cycles, he brings all that together and helps us then to work with the earth, understand where there are certain energetical nodes, and consciously aligned with healing the timelines, healing the collective experience, supporting the earth in her process of ascending to higher frequency. So interestingly, on the 2nd of February 2022, when he was in the pyramids of Giza with a number of people and the world watching as he was guiding the collective in meditation to align our own center, connect with our roots, with the cosmos, and with the entire planet. At that point, Asteroid Atlantis was on his natal moon in 12th house, also conjuncts the royal star Antares, which is perfect for long-term vision, planning, and executing ideas that are important and drawing in a large amount of people. And it was trining his natal Venus in the 8th house, connected also to previous incarnations. And then on the 22nd February, there was another big event that he organized. The Asteroid Atlantis was conjunct precisely his natal Saturn, also in 12th house. And now this year, 2024, 22nd of February, the asteroid will be midpoint between his natal Mars and Sun in the 8th house. So it's just really fascinating how it connects to his chart.
It's remarkable, too, that February 2nd is such a critical date for him for this channeling of this information, when that's that powerful cross-quarter holiday Imbolc, the time of divination.
Yeah. Okay. And for Heather and I, we discovered that for you, it's on your natal south node, right, Heather? If we can share that. And for me, it's on my natal north node within 1 degree. So it's actually, this is how we came about to talk about this. We just mentioned this and we said, okay, let's look at that and see what will come through. Yeah. Do you feel connected to Atlantis in some way?
Well, it is so interesting that so much of my work is about the precessional cycle and these 12,000 year shifts that are so critical on the planet and in our consciousness. And I have a profound connection with ancient Egypt. And as you know, lead trips to Egypt to see the ancient sacred sites there. And it is significant that those who survived the destruction of Atlantis 12,000 years ago brought their wisdom to different parts of the world, including Egypt, and were most likely very involved in the building of the Sphinx and the great pyramids of Giza. And it's thought that the records, the Hall of Records of Atlantis, is below the left paw of the Sphinx. So there's such a strong connection between Atlantis and ancient Egypt.
100%. You were there recently with a group, weren't you?
October, and then I'm going back again in March.
Amazing. But let's look at the transits, because I would be curious to see where it was during the time when you were there in October, how that was hitting your natal chart.
Well, what would be particularly interesting is to see where it was in relationship to the chart of the lunar eclipse at that time. That's when we were actually in the Great Pyramid. And then when I'm back there, March and April, we'll be in the Great Pyramid at the time of the solar eclipse. But I think there is such a resonance between Atlantis and ancient Egypt. So many who have this asteroid strong in their charts may feel a strong connection to ancient Egypt also.
Well, speaking of that, if people would like to go back to astro.com, go to the extended version, there are other numbers that they can plug in to look if they have perhaps asteroid Giza, where that is in their chart. The number is 5249. Mine is precisely on my natal Pluto-Saturn conjunction. I feel strong connection, certainly. There is asteroid Mesopotamia. The number is 56000, so 56,000. You can look at that. There is asteroid Babylon. That may be relevant. Number 15417. And then there are asteroids connected to Egyptian deities. So, for example, Isis or Sekhmet, Hathor, Horus, and so on. You can find those and see where they are in your chart.
But what do you make of the fact that Isis now is exactly conjunct the Great Attractor?
Oh, wow. Okay, so
it's the asteroid Isis is currently at 14 degrees of Sagittarius.
Oh, wow. So the Great Attractor frequency is, from my experience, all about integration of multiple perspectives, finding a center amidst all different points of view. So isn't that something that we are guided to do, finding something that can unify us and help us work together towards something that can help all, not just certain individuals? Wow.
And what's fascinating to me is Isis is also so associated with the star Sirius, which is our binary star, which is what guides us in this dance that takes us through the precession cycle. So my sense is that the asteroid Isis is the messenger of that star wisdom from Sirius, and in that it's conjunct the Great Attractor, it's supporting us in understanding this time of the shift in the precession cycle that we're in, so that we can work it consciously.
I love that. Yeah. There are many beautiful teachings passed down from Hathor through Isis, the Magdalenes. I've met so many women and men that felt deep resonance.
And currently, Haumea is conjunct the Shapley Attractor at 2 degrees of Scorpio. So,
wow, so prominent.
It's interesting as we're talking about this Atlantis energy guiding us in how we're working this profound shift on the planet. These energies that are really connected to the sacred feminine are calling us to reweave that sacred feminine wisdom into balance with the sacred masculine as we're making this shift.
That makes so much sense. Yeah, so with Shapley being all about revealing the hidden, understanding what is the core motivation behind our actions or anyone's actions, like looking beyond deception and kind of breaking through the illusions that once had hold on us, disempowering us, but now we are starting to see through the illusions that were presented to us to disempower us, and instead we connect to the balanced way of working with the feminine and masculine aspects inside our being, which is a whole new experience. We haven't had that for a really long time, for so many generations, right?
And that's some of what's so powerful about your work, is you really understand these galactic energies and how they're coming into play.
It's just fascinating how it's all there. I really see the natal chart as infinite map, that once we are understanding one layer, it can shift into deeper and deeper and deeper layers, just into infinity. There is so much information that is locked inside our astrology. And if we start exploring the other objects beyond our planets, like the asteroids, the stars, even the galaxies and other points, and then when you take time to reflect on your life experience and how you were given the clues to all these stories that are inside your chart throughout your life, it's just truly very playful and magical and super intelligent universe that we live in. So even seeing really, horrific news and events happening in the world, when we understand astrology, there is something reassuring in that, knowing that there is order in chaos. So for that reason, I will continue to be avid student of astrology and seeing what else is there that can support us and guide us to navigate these turbulent times in peace and actually enjoy knowing that there's a wonderful potential here for us to experience highest possible timeline for as many of us as possible.
Speaking of which, tell us about this incredible new book that you're a part of that's just come out, Visions of a Joyful World.
Last year, I was approached by Elia Robertson, which is this gentleman's pen name, who felt guided to bring people together to share their vision for what this world could be if we center in our heart, follow our soul's guidance. And he just felt it, something like this, it's so needed at this time for us to be able to take a book and read inspirational text that will propel us towards joyful world. So 15 people came together, including myself. Chapter 2 was dedicated to my message. And what I shared was experiences shared through my regression hypnosis clients, when instead of regressing to past lives, they regress to future lives on Earth. And it was either 100, 200, or 300 years from now. And in my experience, what I witnessed as they were shown the future vision, it was positive. It was peace, worldwide peace. One lady literally saw a massive signpost saying that this is a world peace treaty and all these countries signed it, and it's been this way for many years now. The nature was luscious, the air was pure, the technology was there, but it was enhancing the well-being of the planet and the human bodies. There was a lot of good things, so I share that in this book. And then there's many others who either shared their personal stories of how they connect to the Great Spirit, how it guided them through difficult moments, or it felt like just channeled prayer for the beautiful new world. It's really wonderful book to read. So it's available now, link that we can share in the description. It's been an honor to participate in something like that.
You know, it's so beautiful that you're a part of that, Julia, and that I think that's so important that we be very conscious in this time of where we put our energies and what we are envisioning, because this is such a critical choice point on the planet. And if we get caught up in all the messages coming from the media that pull us into fear or despair or polarization, then that's what we're energizing on the planet. Absolutely. But when we can, as you said so beautifully, realize that we are being supported and guided by the earth and these cosmic energies to be in this evolutionary leap into higher consciousness, then we can visualize and energize what we're moving into that can be so joyful and about co-creating a new earth together where we are in balance with each other and in balance with the earth.
Yes, beautifully said. I wonder if you read my chapter already, because it was pretty much the message at the end of my writing. So very aligned with that. Yes. Well, I would just like to share about the Asteroid Atlantis moving through the zodiac for the rest of this year, because there are a few transits that seem to be quite potent. You know, it's worth paying attention to this, and especially if the viewers have this asteroid prominent in their natal chart, it may be time to take a look back at what we've experienced, because if we didn't face those memories yet, we are unconsciously playing them out in our reality as repeating patterns, and we keep wondering, why am I still facing these same kind of relationship issues or the inner blocks that I have? Well, in fact, the answer may be in the Atlantean time memories. So reviewing that as this asteroid is pretty potent in connection to other planets, it may help resolve those limitations and move forward in a more liberated and expanded way. So if it's
Before you do that,
Mhm.
yeah, I just want to say, I think in light of that, before you look at what's going on this year, don't you feel it's significant that at the time of its discovery, the asteroid was squaring the galactic center
Ah,
because it was at 27 degrees of Pisces. So squaring the galactic center. And that was such a turbulent time on the planet. In the 1930s, we were dealing with the Great Depression. We were moving into World War II. And here, Atlantis, the asteroid was saying, come back into connection with Source. Come back into that right alignment with your soul selves and with the source of our galaxy. And I feel like you're going to be sharing with us how it's now in this accelerated time of change, calling us back into that awareness and higher consciousness, and the importance, as you were just saying, of our healing, what needs to be healed so that we can move into this higher consciousness.
absolutely. Oh my goodness. So relevant. Here on the 22nd of February, 2024, it'll be conjunct the moon and at the 15 degrees of Leo, which is the avatar degree. And I'm sure Matias will do something interesting and amazing on that day. So it would be good maybe to tune in collectively in meditation for the world peace and for the healing for us all. On and connecting to the heart, right? To the higher frequency of Leo. On July 9th, Moon will be conjunct Regulus at that time and conjunct an asteroid Atlantis. So yet again, the theme of the royal codes that we carry. But what does it mean in its highest expression? Not the hierarchy, top-down structure, but wise, generous, grounded leadership for the benefit of all, to be an inspiration. So perhaps really the echo of that Atlantean precession cycle and the Leo age, perhaps that really will be coming back for those who maybe were in supreme positions in Atlantis, whether as royalty or any other significant stance where maybe they were lured in by greed. Maybe they will be facing something like that this time around, whether it'll be a new job opportunity for big money, but it's not what it's calling their heart, or, any types of scenarios like that. Just watch out for what is really your heart, higher heart telling you, and what will you do this time around? And will you help those that are looking for help, or will you just look after yourself? Anyway, we can go on and on. Here, would you like to comment on any of that before I move to?
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
It just also, I think, is reconnecting with the age of Leo, with that conjunction with Regulus, and again, reminding us to integrate and reweave what was out of balance 12,000 years ago with how we're moving into this new age of Aquarius now.
Perfect. Then on July 31st, asteroid Astrea is conjunct Atlantis at 7:25 Virgo, conjunct Thuban Draco, so Alpha Draconis, and it's square Mars and Gemini. There is a channeled information on the ancient Atlantis where there has been wars between different off-world civilizations, the humans from other star systems, including the Orion, there was Sirius, Alpha Centauri, Pleiades, Auriga, Capella, and so on, but certainly some conflict between beings from Draco constellation warring with Orion. And I spoke to someone who has these placements in their chart within their family dynamic, including asteroid Atlantis being prominent in this person's fourth house, and seeing the placements of Draco and Orion there too, and having really, really challenging relationship with a lot of difficulty in communication and selfish reasonings and putting each other down and all that kind of toxic frequency, where this time we want to not give our power away. We want to, there are starseeds that really need to learn how to express their boundaries in a healthy way and all these things. So I would say perhaps at this time, midsummer, this may be quite a theme. And so Asteroid Astrea is all about balance and justice and harmony, most of all justice. So it's likely that we will be revisiting certain dynamics with people that we are karmically tied to, going way back to Atlantis, and what will we do this time? And I just want to point out that physically our human body can have quite strong reactions in these dynamics, where it really hurts in your belly area, all kinds of kind of pains and aches when you're dealing with people where you had a lot of painful experiences in Atlantis. So just be aware that your body needs to process these emotions. And if you can bring in just the awareness of being a witness to it, it can really help to process it much faster rather than fighting it or resisting it or being in the illusion that this is happening again. It's not. You're revisiting it so you can be liberated. So hopefully
Feel it, transform it. Yes,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, there's few others that I've mentioned here where, like for example, August 15, Venus will be conjunct Atlantis. This time Atlantis will be in the sign of Virgo. Will we take personal responsibility? Will we work on improving ourselves? Will we start leveraging the innate gifts that we have, perhaps for healing, self-healing, or healing of others? Will we use it to support ourselves or others? The gifts of the wisdom of Atlantis, inspired by Venus, but squared by Jupiter and Mars, which will be conjunct in Gemini at a particular degree. So again, communication, and I believe a lot of karmic stuff will be coming up throughout summer. What would that resonate with you too, based on that?
Makes a lot of sense. That's beautifully said.
Now this one, September 16th, the asteroid Atlantis will be at 24 degrees of Virgo. And what's interesting, it is conjunct star Alkes in constellation Crater, which is linked to the Holy Grail consciousness, to prophetic abilities. If someone has this star potent in their chart, and we have someone in our community, and indeed they've been having these prophetic dreams throughout their life. It's so fascinating, truly. But what it could be, this potency of the star could be the Vela supercluster in the background. So anyway, this will be conjunct Atlantis, forming a grand Earth sign trine with Pluto, which will be back at 29 degrees of Capricorn, and Uranus will be at 27 of Taurus. Jupiter will be conjunct Nihal, the indigo frequency, which is here to disobey the old rulership. Again, I believe this will be quite powerful time. Isn't September the election time in states or something going on?
It's in November, but I think it's significant at that time too that Atlantis will be squaring the galactic center again. Mm-hmm. So it does feel like that's a very potent time for accelerated shifts into higher consciousness.
And so the asteroid of justice, the goddess of justice, will be conjunct M87, super galactic center at that time too. So I feel there's something really big potentially here. Then September 24th, so within a week of that, Mercury will be conjunct Atlantis at 27 of Virgo, and Sun will be conjunct super galactic center. So again, these greater forces that will be working with us on a collective level. I feel it's a very, very potent time. Then we move to the solar eclipse time. And on that day, Atlantis moves from Virgo to Libra. It'll be at the supergalactic center conjunct. And just 4 hours from the eclipse, Venus, Mercury, and Moon will be at 11 degree. 11, 11, 11.
Powerful.
Has to be something there. Okay, October 18th, Sound Node will be conjunct Atlantis and conjunct supergalactic center. It's again still very powerful. And December 30th, Atlantis will move to Scorpio. It'll be conjunct Vesta in late degrees of Libra, the keeper of the flame of life. And there'll be square Mars in Leo and Pluto to Aquarius. So this whole year, it's just interesting how it allows us to revisit the Atlantean themes that we were going through.
This is exquisite, Julia. What you just charted, it feels like it's guiding us through whatever needs to be dealt with karmically, what has to be healed and resolved, to then in September move into a time of accelerated spiritual consciousness. And then I think it's profound that it goes into this more accelerated process in 2025 when, as you know, Pluto moves fully into Aquarius towards the end of November 2024. So I see that as a critical threshold point for us to move more fully into the new paradigms of the Aquarian age. So Atlantis, as the asteroid, is guiding us through this journey that we need to go through to clear what we need to clear to be moving into that higher consciousness, to then be more fully manifesting it in 2025.
Absolutely. Makes so much sense. So glad we took time to look at this. Ending on the trivia note with the animated movie on Atlantis, Atlantis The Lost Empire animated movie released by Disney on 3rd of June 2011. Of course, I was curious about the chart of that day. And on that day, asteroid Juno, which is also linked kind of to fame and, being seen, being entitled to attention, was conjunct asteroid Atlantis at 1623 of Virgo. It was trine natal Uranus, which was in Gemini on 3rd house of Walt Disney's chart, and sextile has Pluto in the 9th house. I just thought, again, just divine timing for everything.
Well, as you said, it just shows us how we're guided by these synchronicities and by these cosmic energies that are supporting us in moving through this time of transition. So thank you, Julia, for your amazing work and for being in this conversation today.
My pleasure. Thank you for holding space for this, and I look forward to what's ahead. It's good that we can do this together and compare and share and encourage each other towards greater joy, greater connection.
And thank you to all of you who are listening, who are also in this community supporting our moving into and co-creating a new world together. Blessings and love to all of you.